Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming through. It's proclamation news and gatherings. Hello there, Green Magpie. It's Thursday, the 15th of July, 2021. Halfway through the month. I thought summer was here today. I thought I woke up, I see sun come through the window. I thought the sun was actually here. Did I get mistaken? Absolutely. Proclamation news and gatherings with the prodigious, the Professor Johnson at PNG. I've written some notes. I mean, as you know, my academic integrity is arts and humanities, which is history and politics. But I like criminal law. I've been going to all the local constabularies. I mean, I'm overwhelmed what the police have to put up with and what they do, and the NHS and fire brigade, all the legal authorities. I'm so overwhelmed. But obviously, why I study in politics, I read different books, criminal law, family law. I've been reading. I've got a business law book that I haven't started yet, but I've got some awareness within business law. But criminal law, I'm very hung up on, because I hate inhumane, incompetent, inappropriate, incomprehensible society. I hate it. I've been brought up in a sociological society full of urban errors. We're going to call them urban errors, urban incompetent people, inappropriate people that abide by anything that's not law stricken: narcotics, alcoholism, knife crime, burglary, arson, all that kind of stuff, theft, racketeering. So I'm going to give you guys a bit of a heads up what I've been studying over myself. I didn't have to do this. Criminal law has nothing to do with my education, but I want to prevent offenders and re-offenders. We get like that Arslan Ahmed the other week, stabbed someone in the throat. So I've written to all the MPs. When you write to MPs, you can't just write a few paragraphs and not make much sense. You have to be very careful how you word things. I've written things that probably a politician may not understand unless he checks the words up on Google, because I'm very, like I said, educated when it comes to criminal law. I said attempted acta reus, which attempted acta reus is attempted murder. Acta reus is murder. Mens rea is a thought of murder, but it's a thought of murder picking up a knife in the first place, isn't it? So the guy should have got done for attempted murder. But yeah, it's how you word things when you write an email. He's getting a section 20 GBH, which is 5 years in prison. That's not good enough. He only did 2.5 on good behaviour. So I wanted him to get a full sentence. That could have been you. That could have been your mum and dad. That could have been your children. So my voice and my opinion needs to be heard. It needs to be rectified. Proclamation news and gatherings needs to be rectified for what I'm trying to accumulate. I need support. I need people to share my life, hopefully, if they don't have to. But it would help if I have more viewers and I acknowledge what I'm talking about. It might stop re-offenders. Probably wouldn't, because most of the offenders are on narcotics or alcoholism. They've got that sinful attitude. Put a negative in your body, you can get a negative defect, aren't you? Anyway, rape and sexual offences. This happens a lot as well. Youngsters going out, they see a female, might see a male, or mainly male. A male will see a female. A group of guys going out, see a female, had a few drinks, start groping her, touching her bum in a nightclub or in a bar, or on the way home the next day from his friends, still half cut from the night out, sees a young girl, gropes her, chats her up. Happens all the time. Human trafficking is a serious offence. It's been happening in Clacton, near my constituency where I am now. People pulling up in vehicles trying to kidnap children, stuff like that. It's shocking, absorbing information. Rape and sexual offences, Chapter 19. Rape carries a maximum penalty of life imprisonment. Rape is a serious specified offence to which dangerous offenders provisions apply. Part 2. Schedule is Criminal Justice Act 2003. I wasn't guided to write all these notes. I wasn't guided by anyone to write these notes. It's just what I wanted to do to help me apprehend with a phenomenal radio class. I wrote this in 2019 in April. It's not something I just wrote. It's something I wrote very few years ago when I was getting myself into the situation I'm in now in university. Starting points: single offence of rape by a single offender, 5 years custody. Victim is 16 or over, 8 years custody. Victim 13 or over but under 16. Rape accompanied by an aggravated factor, 8 years custody. Victim age 13 or over but under 16. 13 years custody for victim under 13. Repeated rape of the same victim by the same offender and rape involving multiple victims, 15 years custody. It's, you know, shocking. I'm reading it out, you think that don't happen, but it really does actually happen in society. Arson. This is another thing, arson. So, I mean, you can easily get provoked, couldn't you? Say, I know another woman slept with your husband or your boyfriend. You're provoked. You want to get revenge. You want to set a light to the car. But this is still an offence, regardless if they caused adultery to you. Then again, the judge might give you the benefit of the doubt and give you a less sentence, quite possibly. But you shouldn't do arson. A crime is a crime, regardless of the situation. And happiness, good and bad times always happen. Doesn't matter how good your relationship is. You've been the best relationship of your life, for all you know, and it could happen. So you've got to think of the consequences of what you could do. Anyway, arson, criminal damage by fire, effective from the 4th of August 2008. Triable either way. Maximum when tried summary. Level 5 fine and or 6 months maximum. Tried on indictment life. Where offences committed in domestic context refer to overcharged principles, domestic abuse, different seriousness, capability and harm. Identify the appropriate starting point. Start point based on the first time offender pleading not guilty. Examples of nature or activity. This is arson. Damage by fire. The starting point, high level community order. Guilty range, medium level community order, 12 weeks custody. Moderate damage by fire, 12 weeks custody. 6 to 26 weeks custody. Significant damage by fire, refer to Crown Court. And then maximum level of community, refer to Crown Court. So Crown Court will prosecute you. What is the sentence for manslaughter? We all know it's a sentence for manslaughter. It's going to be life in prison. It's about 25 years. If you've been accused of manslaughter, the consequences under UK law are superb, ranging from a prison sentence, typically ranging between 2 to 10 years. A suspended term of imprisonment. The sentence can be suspended for up to 2 years, and the offender is given a chance to comply with up to 12 requirements set by the court. Community service. The sentence will be dependent on the specific circumstances of the offence. Unlike murder, there is no mandatory sentence for the criminal offence of manslaughter. Sentencing is at the judge's direction and, where provocation was an issue in the offence, within certain guidelines prescribed by Sentencing Guidelines Council. What is manslaughter in the UK? Manslaughter in the UK defined as murder without premeditation. There are 2 types of manslaughter. Here is how they are defined. Voluntary manslaughter, whereby the defendant is found to have had the intent to kill or cause a serious bodily harm to the victim. The conviction can only stand if the defendant pleads one of 2 partial defences against an offence. Or murder, loss of self-control, or involve mental capacity. Without either of these defences, the defence will be classified as murder. The infantry manslaughter, the defendant is found to be responsible for the offence of murder, but there is no clear motive for the act. Vehicular manslaughter is the crime of causing the death of another individual due to the illegal driving of a vehicle, and the sentence for dangerous driving can take many forms. As we know, crime, as I read out crimes on UK road users most days, if someone's been run over, it's all down to the it's down to the judge, it's down to the court how they're going to pursue the age of the driver, what it was the only influence of alcohol and narcotics, because that's classed as mental behaviour. You might get less sentence. It's sad, isn't it? It's sad because it's sad in a way because that could be your loved one that's got one over. But in another respect, you got to remember that 21-year-old, 23-year-old might have been bullied in a sociological area by drug dealers and so forth and so on. So they take it all into consideration. We've all been young. We've all done our silly things when we were younger. Been in these different circles. It's taken us many, many years to see purity in life. So yeah, you have to understand. I know it's sickening. It could be your mother, it could be me, it could be you, and it could be an incompetent driver that's got in his car after a night out and run you over and killed you. But for the sake of mental health, it's supported. So you've got to take it into consideration, unfortunately. But that is by the by, and we can't do nothing about it. What are the categories of involuntary manslaughter? The offence is involuntary manslaughter can be divided into 4 categories. This is how neat my handwriting is. Well, it's not neat. It's good, pretty neat. Neat enough to read. The offence of involuntary manslaughter can be divided into 4 categories. Unlawful act manslaughter, an intruder unlawful act which must be objectively dangerous and led to death. Gross negligence manslaughter, a duty of care towards a victim, is breached as a result of gross negligence by the defendant, leading to the death of the victim. A subjectively reckless act which leads to death. Corporate manslaughter, a gross breach of the duty of care by a company or organisation that leads to a death. We're not going to give them maximum sentence because we know it's life imprisonment. Maximum sentence of burglary. Thieves are my worst culprits. I hate thieves. In the barbaric terms, I don't know if it's still the same. I don't know if it's changed. They could get their hands cut off for thieving, for burglary. I don't like thieves. The worst culprits to man-made. Maximum sentence for burglary. Offences under sections 1 and 9 of the Theft Act are punishable either on summary convictions or on indictment. The maximum sentence in a magistrate's court is 6 months imprisonment. In the Crown Court, the maximum sentence is 7 years custody for theft and 10 years for burglary in a building other than a dwelling. I was in the Hertfordshire Constabulary, and on my kid's life, on my mother's life, on my father's life. I can't remember the guy's name, but he drove a car up the wrong way on a motorway. Pissed. No license. Took his father's car up the motorway, up the wrong way. Didn't cause an accident, luckily enough. Police chased him, caught him. He also has been stealing his dad's credit card. His own dad's credit card. Taking money out. Fraud. He's done it on 3 occasions. And he got community service and £100 fine. So he lost his license before he's even got it. He's drove up the wrong way on the motorway, and he's done fraud on his own dad's bank account, and he's got community service. This is why I get hit up with, they say, we're strengthening up our laws in the UK, but that's not strengthening up the laws. Because of mental health, of being on narcotics and alcohol, they take that into consideration. Time and time again, how can you keep taking narcotics abuse under consideration all the time? I mean, I worked in a homeless shelter. I know what people are suffering. You don't know the consequences of them getting bullied, but just seeing it, you think to yourself, why go to the off license? Why buy at a superintendent? Why buy a cider? You're poisoning your body. But you know, some people are that far gone, damaged in life, they can't be procured. Can't be procured. Procurement is safety, and alcohol and narcotics is not safety. Anyway, ABH and GBH. Grievous bodily harm, GBH, either Section 18, which carries life imprisonment with intent to do serious harm, or Section 20, which has a maximum of 5 years, assault, occasioning actual bodily harm. ABH, a maximum of 5 years. And that's what that guy, Arslan Ahmed, got. 5 years. Stab someone in the throat, you get 5 years. You got arteries all over your body, so you know you stab someone in the arm and kill them, they can bleed to death and die. It's attempted murder. And you pick up a knife, it's mens rehabilitation. You're thinking, if you're not thinking, you should be thinking when you pick up a knife, you want to hurt someone. But knowing that's a knife, you could kill someone. So that's mens rehabilitation, the thought of murder. Why is he not getting attempted murder? He stabbed 3 people. The last one that he got caught was in Walthamstow. He done it in 2009. He got caught in 2009. He got sentenced just a month or so ago, or he's getting sentenced this month, I believe. If you check it on Google, it's horrific. Some of the things that happen, and you know, if I see it in as I read the journalism, it's my job to analyse. You know, I'm a political analyst and I analyse criminal activity because I want the safety for all of us. I want the safety of the whole of the UK, not just for me, not for my children, not for my father, for everyone. I want it for everyone. You know, if you're not good for fit for purpose in humanity and society, don't be in society. You're not fit to be in. You're not fit to be on Earth. There's no room for inhumane, incompetent people in the UK. They all want help. They all want help on PIP, or they want help by the government so they don't have to go work, so they can just sit there and do their narcotics or alcohol. They don't deserve it. Because they also, some people do, don't get me wrong, but some of them are just sitting indoors. Yes, very true, Farshid. Thank you, buddy. I hope you're well, mate. Section 18, GBH with intent. This is the most serious of the assaults under the Offence Against the Person Act and is an offence that can only be tried in the Crown Court. There are 2 offences created by this section: inflicting grievous bodily harm with intent and wounding with intent. These see all these notes. I only got these notes because when I went to the Hertfordshire Constabulary, which is, I think it's a magistrate's court, I believe. I'm not sure off the top of my head. I think it's a magistrate's court. All the solicitors that sit in the court, they're on their computer. And I was what's it called, fishing, overlooking someone's shoulder, looking at what they was getting the information for when they're speaking. Because I want to be a speaker, because I'm studying history and politics for a reason. I want to get involved in the political spectrum of what's going on around the world, you know, with using natural resources, industrialisation, pollution, all that kind of thing. I want to get involved with the community, maybe work with the council, be a councillor at the end of my academic year, which is about another 4 years to go, 3 years. But that's where I want to become. So if I'm understanding what's going on within criminal law as well, I'm quite a good person to be sitting or elected in a seat, as a seat. Anyway, assault on a police officer. Assault on a police constable is execution of his or her duty. The courts take the offence very serious. In our experience, and defendants often face immediate custodial sentences. As you know, I mean, there's been a few assaults on police officers, always on the tabloid, always in the broadsheet newspaper, who the offender was. It's not fair, is it? They're our national services protecting society. It's not fair that they get attacked. Common assault, battery. An assault occurs where someone intentionally or recklessly causes another person to apprehend or fear. Immediate unlawful violence, a battery, occurs where a person intentionally or recklessly applies unlawful force. defences. The most common defence for these offences is one of self-defences, to rely on this defence. There must have been an imminent attack at any actions, and any actions used in defence must be reasonable and appropriate. We will be able to advise you whether your actions amount to defence or of self-defence or abusive, if there are any other defences available to you. I'm not going to go all for them all because I'm going to get on with my show today. If you're thinking about supply and demand, you supply drugs and then demand money. It's an offence, serious offence. Class A. Crack cocaine, ecstasy, MDMA, heroin, LSD, magic mushrooms, methadone, crystal meth, up to 7 years in prison and unlimited fine. Up to life in prison. And, well, possession, supply and production, up to life in prison and unlimited fine, or both. Class B drugs, amphetamines, cannabis, codeine, ketamine, synthetic cannabinoids, synthetic camphones, and methadone. Possession of them drugs, Class Bs, up to 5 years in prison and unlimited fine, or both. You know, it's important we educate our youth of today. Up to 14 years in prison and unlimited fine, or both. Class C, anabolic steroids. So if you get caught in possession of steroids, thinking about selling them. Gamma, I'm not sure what they are. These are all the different steroids anyway. If you get caught in possession of them, up to 2 years in prison, unlimited fine, or both. If you get caught supply and production, up to 14 years in prison, unlimited fine, or both. So you get all these gym heads, gym goers, they want to get big, they want to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger. They're taking consequences, big, huge consequences. Because they get them and then they get more to get their mates big as well. They want their mates the same. But they get caught dealing to their mates, making money off them. They could end up in serious trouble. That's why you've always seen me pretty much the same frame for 37 years of my life. You are what you are when you're born. That's your metamorph. That's your whatever body you are. I'm a, well, I'll say I'm a bit of an ectomorph, but I'm athletic. I'm not super skinny. Anyway, ladies and gents, proclamation of the Gavins. We're going to move on with the show. That was just, I like that part of the show, just giving my knowledge that I've scriptured down myself. A lot of my stuff is usually a thoughtful process, a teleological thoughtful process. And my teleological thoughtful process next is to outline car incidents inside the UK. Obviously, do not enter your vehicle under sleep deprivation, under the influence of alcoholism or narcotics. As you know, I'm dead against it, but I won't be able to pursue this as a professional career if I didn't take it lightly, take it professionally, be etiquette in style, which I like to think I am, and pragmatic with sense, which I believe I am also, because I have a sponge-like brain behind my cranium, and I use my mandible to exfoliate my expressions. There you go, off the cuff. Check your centre mirror, your ring mirror before acting into safe, sufficient directional choice, making sure motorcyclists are not overtaken, or cars even. You could cause an incident. Do not drive while eating crisps or eating anything, smoking or texting on the phone. Try not to. You've got to avoid it. I know some people will. If you vape, you can have a little vape. Make sure the window's open if you're going to vape. That's all I say. To be on the safe side, let the smoke out. I shouldn't be telling you what you can do, because you shouldn't be doing it. But if you're gonna vape, because everyone's going to do something. If even they smoke, they're going to smoke. But open the window. Open the window. Because that will not, hopefully, not blur your vision of the road. Take 2 seconds, your eyes off the road. You're going to cause a massive incident on the road. Cause someone, innocent people, could cause a massive death. Pile up, road closure. What could a road closure do? Imagine someone behind you in a car. Their wife's just given birth. They can't get to hospital because you just crashed your car because you was looking at the road. Just think safety, think first. Check, make sure your MOT is up to date, taxed, insured. Make sure you've got plenty of sufficient fuel on board. Anyway, let's see what incidents we've got today. We can look straight in Cambridge, I believe. Yes, Cambridge. We have in Cambridge on the A10. We have queuing traffic in construction area. Both ways at Milton turnoff in the construction area. Temporary traffic lights are in place. In Luton, we are going to look around my local constituency because I'm hoping I've got local listeners, but I want to give some all over because there might be people in Greater London listening. I don't know. I've got people on Castbox, I've got people on YouTube tuning in every now and then. M1 lanes closed, stalled vehicle, traffic open well. One lane closed due to a stalled vehicle on M1 northbound between junction 11A, A5 Dunstable Northern Bypass at Luton North and junction 12, A5120 Harrington Road. Flitwick traffic is coping well. Lane 1 of 3 is closed. 15th of July, 30 minutes past 10 a.m. I just want to say that car incident could be due to, not MOT. He didn't get his MOT updated, or he didn't get his advisories done on his MOT. It could be anything. We're not going to jump to conclusion. Just saying these sort of things can happen because you haven't done the advisories on your MOT. You haven't checked your engine oil, your water coolant tank. We don't know why the car's stalled, but I'm just saying it could be one of those defects. More than likely. One more incident in London, and we're going to go with my constituency. A23 traffic signal failure on A23 Brixton Road on Longborough Road. The road was closed both ways, not far from the Crown and Anchor Pub. The traffic lights remain damaged. 14th July at 11:59 a.m. in Colchester. A12 traffic problem, slow traffic report of traffic problem and slow traffic on A12 London bound at, this is in Colchester by the way, after junction 26, A1124 Essex, Yeomanry Way, 8 Ash Green Tollgate interchange. Another one in Colchester. These are all reported today. A133 slow traffic in construction area at St Andrews Avenue. Both ways at Waitrose in the construction area, and lane closure is in place. Still there. Okay, Maidstone, Kent, because I know people drive out to Kent and work. A229 car fire. Traffic coping well. Report of car fire on A229 near B2097 Westmisnter Road. Lord Lee's roundabout. Traffic is coping well at 10:27 a.m. Reported today, my lovelies. We're going to go to Parliament Live and we're going to see what's going on there also. Listen to this. This is horrific news. I mean, we just not long played Germany in the Euro. Germany floods, 6 dead and dozens missing after heavy rain. After a downpour of rain, 6 people dead. They're in pretty much the same weather climate as us. That is very, very shocking. That could happen to us. That's horrific. At least 6 people have died and many more are missing following severe floods in Western Germany, police said. The worst of the flooding that has been in the estate of Vineland, Palatinate, where around 50 have been waiting on rooftops to be rescued. At least 30 are missing in the hilly Eifel region after several homes collapsed, broadcaster SWR reports. Much of the flooding was triggered when the AHR River, which flows into the Rhine, burst its banks south on Bonn. Malu Dreyer, chief of Vineland, Palatinate State, described the flooding as a catastrophe. There are dead, missing, and many people still in danger, she said. All our emergency services are in action round the clock and risking their own lives. Police helicopters and army have been deployed to some areas to help stranded residents. Some schools have been closed while the rail and transport links have been severely disrupted around the west of the country. About 25 houses are in danger of collapsing in the district of Scholbay Adenu in the Eifel region, where a state emergency has been declared according to SWR. It said houses had been completely cut off and no longer be reached by boat. 4 people died in the Eifel region where their homes were swept away in the early hours of Thursday, police have said. Meanwhile, 2 firefighters died on Wednesday in the neighbouring state of the North Rhine, Westphalia. 1 drowned while another reported collapsed following a rescue operation. Neighbouring Belgium has also been hit by flash floods. A dramatic video shows cars sweeping away along the street in the city of the Verviers. The water looks like river water, it's really dirty. Almost 2,000 people have been forced to evacuate in the town of Chadfontein. The Saw newspaper reported rail services in south half of Belgium has been suspended because of the extreme weather. In the Netherlands, the province of Limburg has been left heavily flooded following downpours overnight. Power. Forecast more heavily rain is due in much of Germany and Belgium on Thursday and Friday. Experts say the climate change is expected to increase the frequency of extreme weather events, but linking any single event to global warming is complicated. That is horrific news. Horrific news. Going to the 9th Delegated Legislation Committee. Start at 10:30, so it should be live by all accounts. And we're just going to check.
The proceeding will start shortly.
There's your answer for that. Don't think it's going to be there.
The proceeding will.
Fast forward a bit more. Hang on.
The proceeding will start shortly.
That should be. Go back. Go back to another one. Won't watch that. Public Administration and Constitutional. That'd be better if it's on. Start at 10:30. So it should be on. Start at 10:30.
Yes,
yes.
CSs, but within a national framework to maintain the National Health Service. You always seem to be alluding to perhaps more of a Teesside health service and more devolved control and funding of that. Do you want to clarify that, or how would that maintain a national health service?
I don't think it would be wise or healthy to carve out any particular region or multiple regions and say, there you go. But I do think, because the ICSs work at different levels and go up creating that hierarchical chain into the Department of Health and then into the NHS, we could be an effective building block in that. So you don't carve us out, you actually insert us into. That's where I would say. So I think as part of that, the North East is a huge problem anyway, because it's got a North East and Cumbria at the moment proposed ICS, which is just bonkers. But if you carve that down, there is no reason why you couldn't have a Tees Valley ICS that is democratically accountable through the combined authority. The chair could easily be the mayor and the directly elected mayor that would have to have an agenda on health. But it's not autonomous, it just then feeds into the wider ICS system.
Interesting. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And he's been waiting extremely patiently, and it's our final question from Tom Randall, please.
Thank you, Chairman. And just to draw the sort of the various threads that we've had sort of together, and you've talked about the sort of how this model has developed over the years. But if you were to set out a clear vision for the governance of England and the future of devolution and local government, what would that vision look like to you? If I could go to Tracy Braben first.
Thanks. Well, as I say, the caveat is early in the job, but I would say diversity. What does, Whitehall local government has to represent us all when it comes to race and class, gender, disability. And we're doing our bit of work. We're hiring an EDI officer at the Combined Authority, the inclusivity champion. But where is the consistent approach across all the regions? What's the baseline? What's the expectation from government for mayoral officers to look like, and the reach? What's their reach and the expectation? We need to collaborate across all the regions. I'm able to do that because I'm surrounded by lots of Labour mayors, so we collaborate very easily, but open to collaboration across the whole country. Also, the relationship with mayors. It would be great if there was more recognition that we want to deliver, that this isn't a political position necessarily. It is about delivering for our communities. And also, it can't be a postcode lottery. This bidding for pots of money, the beauty contest, it takes so much person power and money to develop a pitch that then gets discarded, and then their terms of reference change, and then that's put on the shelf. So, give us the confidence to go ahead with planning something, knowing that it will be delivered. And more devolution, as we've discussed, with better relationship with the centre. I really would like to speak more often to government ministers and to civil servants. We have that combined agenda, and certainly having a more of a UK-wide voice in policy making. So those 5,000 sustainable homes, how does that fit into government's ambitions? The climate change agenda here in West Yorkshire, how does that fit into government and more widely across the country? Because this, obviously, climate change isn't just about West Yorkshire or even our country, or even jobs. It's about the future of the planet for our children's children. So those fundamentals when it comes to housing and transport, and GB Rail, just finally, if we could have that strategic partnership and that relationship with transport, just to be able to guide as well about what we know, what works, we know what we need. So if government would listen and work closely with us so we can deliver at speed.
Thank you. Ben Houchin.
If I was in charge and could wave a magic wand and fast forward 10 years, I'd like to see the whole of England covered by combined authority areas. I think there does need to be a clarity from government and wider views from Parliament on what is the actual role. My personal view is that I think it needs to be pretty much focused, not exclusively, but more or less on what they currently are at the moment. I do think democratically elected RDAs, in effect, as a model, I think works really well as a focused element. But having said that, I do think there are a couple of areas.
I'm going to come back to that surely. I want to talk about what's been going on in the media. It's been shouted out everywhere, in the newspaper, through your TV, through the radio. LBC talk about it all the time as well. We're not LBC, we're PNG. We're Proclamation News and Governance. It's a total different society and kettle of fish. How I go about what I want to produce. I'm producing safety for society. Obviously, LBC is a similar, more of a political analyst association, which mine is a political analyst, and they get people calling in. I did have a couple of my friend calling in. I'm a friend live on screen recently. Well, it's going to happen again soon. It's going to happen again soon. But these are the sort of areas that I like to aim at. That's why I like to be on myself sometimes. It's nice to have my friend on because it helps community come together, think, oh, he's got another person on the show, and people think, and it makes them, for some reason, makes them more interested. Makes them more interested. I mean, we've had one really good show. We were talking about all the different community help, community support, what's out there to help people in need. Because everyone in the world's in need. You could be the richest man in the world, but you're going to be in need, aren't you? You're going to be in need of the poor people to work for you, to help, you know, help you move your money to maintain your bank balance or build it. You need people. You're always going to need someone in life. If you're poor, you're going to need help for your mental health society, food banks or whatever. You know, there's going to be loads of things you need. If you're suffering in life for mental health or anything, there's help out there, but you need to make that change, is what I'm saying. When I say make that change, you've got to have a vision. Then you need to build on your aspirations. Then you need to stop all the bad habits, narcotics, alcoholism. Mine's smoking. I always have a defect with smoking. I vape at the minute. I'm trying to vape. I mean, the last cigarette I had was about 2 hours ago, so I've been smoking for the last 2 days. So that's my bad thing that I need to give up and knock on the head and say goodbye to the rest of my life. But we all need to make a change to better our aspirations. And Boris Johnson at the moment and all around Parliament, all you hear about is levelling up. It won't make rich areas poorer, says Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson is to promise the government will not make the rich parts of the UK poorer as it pursues its levelling up programme. In a speech on Thursday, the Prime Minister also plans to invest more deprived areas and improve skills are not a jam spreading exercise. He will also pledge to improve services and boost community pride after fuller plans are laid out this autumn. But Labour described the PM's plans, his speech, as an empty husk. Deputy Leader Angela Rayner said he had no plan for the future of our country other than pitching people and towns against each other. Conservatives first promised to level up the country in their manifesto for the 2019 general election, in which they targeted and won so-called red wall parliamentary seats in the Midlands and Northern Ireland, previously dominated by Labour. The plan, some of which has already been outlined, involves investing in transport skills and business to address regional disparities. I mean, there's adult learning to get yourself, you know, if you're sick and tired of your manual job, you maybe want to get something, you might want to sit in office as a PA, or, you know, you'd be an assistant manager or anything like this. There's courses out there to do. Even an accountant, there's courses for that as well. And they're free if, you know, well, unless you work and you got money, they're free otherwise. The government is expected to publish more details in September, but a group of 50 Conservative MPs called this week for an extra investment to be rolled out in Northern Ireland at a greater pace to deal with the economic impact of the pandemic. If you're struggling, I don't know if you guys are on universal credit, if you're struggling to get work, that's applicable for your house, you know, for you as a person. There's a government there's a government help line called Peabody, help you back into work. People suffering with some sort of mental health, or what, you know, if you suffer bad back, knees, or whatever, it's suffering you from doing your usual 9 to 5 job, and you're out of work now. Been out of work for so long. There's a thing called Peabody. They will help you and guide you into whatever you want to do. There's one on the council as well. I can't remember the name of it. In Hertfordshire, it's something hub. I can't remember the name of it. It's something hub. I don't know if they've got one in Essex or wherever you guys are in the world. You have to check that out yourself. The Prime Minister's speech will be delivered in the West Midlands, but the words, it appears, are designed to reach an audience much further south. The loss of Chesham and Amersham by election to Liberal Democrats last month has turbocharged jitters in the Conservative Party that a focus of levelling up areas in Northern Ireland and the Midlands could leave traditional voters in southern seats feeling taken for granted. There is deep uneasiness about proposals to reform the planning system and to increase house building. This speech seems designed to reassure the Tory heartlands that the government is listening. In his speech to be delivered in the Westmisnter, the Prime Minister will say the government will have made progress in living up, and we have begun to raise living standards, spread opportunity, improved our public services, and restore people's sense of pride in their community. He will also say that investing in more deprived areas will relieve pressure on parts of the UK overheating, and that previous governments focused too much on areas where house prices are already sky high, while transport is already congested. However, Mr Johnson will insist that it will be not be levelling down in prosperous places, adding, "We don't want to decapitate the tall poppies. We don't think you can make that poor parts of the country richer by making the rich parts poorer." He will say that levelling up is not a jam spreading operation. It's not robbing Peter to pay Paul. It's not zero sum. It's win-win, he says. In a budget on March, Chancellor Rishi Sunak said applications were being sought for a sum of £4.8 billion levelling up fund, which will invest in infrastructure such as town centres and local transport. He also announced an extra £111 million to fund work placements and training for 16 to 24-year-olds in England, and 8 free ports, including tax breaks for employers, have been promised. But the Industrial Strategy Council, chaired by the Bank of England's chief economist, said in March that the plans needed a comprehensive reorientation. It added that they were over-reliant on infrastructure spending, and that centrally controlled funding posts thinly spread across a range of initiatives were unlikely to succeed. For Labour, Ms Rayner said, Boris Johnson has overseen the worst death toll in Europe and the greatest hit to the major economy. 2 years as a Prime Minister, and we all have his empty husk of a speech that shows he has no plan for the future of our country other than pitching people and towns against each other. She added, he has no jobs promise for young people, and he has no recovery plan for our children. As Angela Rayner suggesting that of Boris Johnson. As you know, I don't get any criticism for him or criticism against him. I'm happy with the job he's doing in hand. I could not moan at all, not moan at all.
"2020 hasn't been the year that we imagined. It's been a year when we've been separated from our families, friends, and many of the activities we love. But the spirit of our communities, the sacrifice of so much, has helped us through the pandemic. And as we rebuild, we cannot shy away from the fact that our national recovery will be difficult, but we can't just seek to make up the ground that we've lost since March. We've got to set our sights higher. Fantastic. It falls to this generation, to this government, to this party, to take the opportunity to transform our country fundamentally and permanently for the better. The NHS app, here we go. Successful check-in, Uxbridge Library, look at that.
Yeah, nice to see you.
You had things doing.
We've been quite busy.
I'm so pleased. So pleased to see you open and take you well.
Business is moving since all this.
Glad to hear it. How are you doing? How's business? Is it all right?
Actually, we've been very busy throughout this. We're there for all the patients. We're still open.
Thank you for everything you've been doing. We must seize this opportunity to build back better. Build more houses to give people a chance to have a home of their own. Build more hospitals and rebuild more schools so that public services have the tools they need. Build the infrastructure that will transform and level up all parts of the UK. Build a stronger union, build a greener economy, build a fairer society, build a better United Kingdom. Our plan to transform this country will not be blown off course. At the election, we promised to recruit 20,000 more police officers. We've already recruited 4,300. We promised to deliver 50,000 more nurses. With 14,000 already in place. We promised to get Brexit done. We left the EU on the 31st of January this year. Now is the moment to harness the extraordinary national spirit we've seen in the last few months and build back better.
Good morning, everybody. And it's my honour to be hosting the first full session of conference with, of course, the man right at the heart of government, Michael Gove. So, Michael, we would have been looking forward to welcoming you to Birmingham, but sadly that can't be so for conference. But it makes me think, of course, 12 months ago, we were in Manchester, full of energy, looking forward to a general election, which came very soon afterwards. But of course, it's been an incredibly difficult year since then. So just to get us going, I'd love to hear your reflections on the year, the highs and the lows.
Thank you very much, Andy. Thank you. It is a pity that we're not in Birmingham this year. Conference is a very, very special time in the political life of all of us. And Birmingham, I think, is absolutely the place that we would all want to be. But the last 12 months, you're right, since that Manchester conference, have been tumultuous. Amanda's been reminding us, of course, of how we all felt on election night. An amazing range of victories. And of course, particularly in the West Midlands. You know, some amazingly talented new MPs like Kerry Sembrook and Birmingham Northfield, and others who were elected in seats that had historically been Labour. It was a wonderful feeling. And on the 31st of January, the day that we left the European Union, I was in the West Midlands in the evening. I had a chance to speak to Dudley Conservatives, to talk to Marco Longhi, our newly elected MP in Dudley North, along with others, and to celebrate the fact that Boris had got Brexit done. But of course, what we didn't know at that time, when I was enjoying myself in Dudley, was that the dark shadow of the coronavirus was spreading from China. And undoubtedly, one of the big challenges of the last few months has been grappling with the impact of the coronavirus. And I know that particularly in our urban centres, there's been an impact on business, on hospitality, on the lives of students. And of course, there's been a health impact, which has touched, I think, every family in the country. And I've had the privilege of working with the Prime Minister during that period. I remember vividly the news that the Prime Minister had been taken into hospital and then into intensive care. I think it was a moment when the whole country held its breath and rallied round. Boris made an amazing recovery. He's now back at the heart of government, displaying enormous energy. He's the livest wire in the room. But there is a lot that we do need to do, because as we come up to the end of this year, not only do we need to make sure that we are dealing with
Michael Gove is talking about, I don't want to play the whole thing. You know, sexual harassment's happening everywhere, even inside Parliament. Parliament is the biggest judiciary in the UK as well. You wouldn't think it'd happen, would you? Parliament sexual harassment MP Rob Roberts returns to the Commons. An MP suspended from Parliament after sexually harassing a member of his staff has returned to the Commons despite calls to stay away. Delian MP Rob Roberts was suspended for the House for 6 weeks after the panel heard his propositioned a staff member and told him to be less alluring. Returned to the Commons on Wednesday after his suspension ended, with a Tory source describing the move as brazen. Miss Roberts has not responded to the BBC's request for comment. The MP had previously said he had apologised for a completely improper breach of trust in the MP's staff relationship, and he will continue to serve for his constituency. He has had his party whip suspended, meaning he returns as an independent MP, but is still a Conservative Party member, which the party has said is under review. Mr. Roberts' suspension came after an independent panel investigated sexual harassment complaints by a former employee, which found he had committed a serious and persistent breach of sexual misconduct policy. The former employee told BBC Wales that Mr. Roberts repeatedly propositioned him and asked him to be less alluring. Why did Rob Roberts returned to the Commons. Mr. Roberts returned to the Commons on Wednesday to speak in a second reading of the Health and Social Care Bill after his suspension ended on 8th of July and was criticised by some. Labour's Shadow Minister for Domestic Violence and Safeguarding, Jess Phillips, attended to intervene during Mr. Roberts' speech, but he rejected intervention. This week, Mr. Roberts also voted in Parliament using the Government Deputy Chief Whip, Stuart Andrew MP, as his proxy to cast his vote. The Conservative MP said it was convention for the Government Whips to cast votes on behalf of MPs who have had the party whip withdrawn, and Mr. Andrew had been voting for a number of MPs, including informer Plaid Sumaru and MP Jonathan Edwards and former SNP Margaret Ferrier. The shadow leader of the House of Commons, Pangham Debonair, raised concerns about his return to the House of Commons, asking the Deputy Speaker of the House, unfortunately, one of the best predictors of the future risk is the past behaviour. On behalf of colleagues and the staff who have raised this with me, in the interest of safeguarding, with the risk assessment has been done of his return of the member to the estate. Whether experts have been consultations, if there's a risk management plan in place, and what guidance has been provided to staff to reassure them. The Deputy Speaker said, while it was not appropriate to comment on individual cases, the Chair has no authority to prevent a member from attending the estate. She added that an independent complaints and grievance scheme helpline was available for anyone who has witnessed and experienced bullying, harassment or sexual conduct. The Conservative Party source said Rob Roberts is helping himself by brazenly walking around Parliament with just a week left of the House sitting. He needs to show some contrition and tact. Why can Rob Roberts return to the Commons? The MPs was unable to return because suspensions issued by Parliament's independent expert panel do not automatically lead to recall petitions, something that can trigger by a by-election, unlike those imposed by parliamentary committees. Labour and UK ministers say the legal loophole should be closed, and Labour have been tabled a motion to try and make any rule changes apply retrospectively, including to Mr. Roberts. So a recall petition could be triggered in his Delian seat. But BBC Wales understands the UK government do not currently want any rules change to supply retrospectively. Senior cross-party MPs, including 2 government ministers, have called on the MP to resign. I think they're having a fair shout. They want him to resign for sexual harassment. It's a fair shout, isn't it? Absolute fair shout. But ladies and gents, I just want to say I'm overwhelmed how today went. Like I say, methodical approach will get me where I need to in life. Anything you do in life, always work methodically. If you're an artist, don't give up art because someone criticises your work. Keep producing more to get better. And then everyone will believe you. Look at Vincent van Gogh and Picasso. Them artists didn't make it till they're dead many years later. Didn't make it till they're dead. But you have to keep pursuing whatever you do. Whatever you enjoy in life, keep pursuing it. Keep pushing, keep going. Keep working hard. Before they will believe it. How do you think an astronaut that becomes an astronaut, regardless if he even lands on the moon? It's integrity, pursuance, observations. Keep going at anything you do in life. Keep trying, keep going, and keep chasing that dream. God bless. Take care. One love. Speak soon. Proclamation News and gatherings. Make sure you subscribe to P&G. Hello, Bobby. Hello, Food Answery and Saba. Welcome to Proclamation News and gatherings. Been an absolute